You know that feeling. The one where you pour your absolute soul into something. Your job, your project, the company you genuinely believe in. Yeah, I know that feeling intimately. For 7 years, Innovate Solutions wasn't just my employer, it was my lifeblood. My name's Jessica, by the way. And back then, I wasn't just an employee, I was an architect of that company's success, even if my name wasn't on the gilded door. I started in the trenches, fresh out of college, bright-eyed and full of ideas. Innovate was this rising star in the competitive tech marketing world, and I wanted in. I worked my way up, climbing the ladder through sheer grit, late nights fueled by stale coffee, and weekends sacrificed at the altar of deadlines. I bled Innovate blue. I genuinely loved the challenge, the team, most of them anyway, the feeling of building something impactful. I spearheaded campaigns that put us on the map, secured deals that competitors envied, and developed strategies that became industry benchmarks. I wasn't just doing my job, I was living it. My performance reviews. Stellar. Consistently exceeding expectations. My contribution. Undeniable. I thought I was indispensable. Secure. Valued. Slight scoff, a touch of bitterness enters the voice. Oh, how wrong I was. Enter Mr. Harrison Davies. He wasn't the founder, didn't build the company from the ground up. No, he was brought in a couple of years prior as the new vice president of operations, sharp suit, sharper haircut, and an ego the size of Texas. Davies was slick. He talked a big game about synergy and disruption, but mostly, he seemed skilled at taking credit for other people's work and managing upwards. He never really saw the people doing the actual graft. Especially not women who might, have ideas better than his own. There was always this undercurrent with him. A dismissiveness masked by fake corporate smiles. He'd interrupt me in meetings, subtly downplay my contributions, or reframe my ideas as his own brilliant insights later on. Red flags, right? Hindsight is wonderfully, painfully clear. But at the time, I brushed it off. Corporate politics, I told myself. Keep your head down, do the work, the results will speak for themselves. I believed meritocracy was real. Adorable. The project that broke everything, it was my baby. A groundbreaking campaign strategy, risky but potentially revolutionary for our biggest client. I poured months into it, market research, creative development, feasibility studies. It was brilliant, if I do say so myself. I presented it to the senior team, including Davies. The initial feedback was incredible. Excitement buzzed. This could be huge. Davies seemed oddly quiet during the presentation. Later, he called me into his obscenely large, minimalist office. That sterile, gray space still gives me chills. I walked in expecting praise, maybe even talk of a promotion related to leading the new campaign. Instead, he gestured vaguely towards the chair opposite his imposing desk, not quite making eye contact. Jessica, he started, steepling his fingers, looking oh so important. We need to discuss your performance. My blood ran cold. Performance. My last review was glowing. There have been concerns, he continued, his voice smooth, detached. About your recent project proposal. It's overly ambitious. Lacks strategic alignment. Frankly, it shows a concerning lack of judgment. I blinked. This was the same project everyone else had lauded just days before. Mr. Davies, I started, trying to keep my voice even, with all due respect, the data supports the approach, the client feedback was positive, the projected ROI is, he held up a hand, cutting me off mid-sentence. That arrogant, dismissive little gesture. We feel your focus has been wavering, Jessica. There have been inconsistencies. Missed details. It reflects poorly on the department. On the company. Inconsistencies. Missed details. He wasn't offering specifics, just vague, unsubstantiated criticisms. It felt like smoke and mirrors. I don't understand, I stammered, completely blindsided. Can you tell me what's specific? Look, he sighed, sounding bored, like swatting away a fly. Innovate Solutions needs people who are fully aligned with our forward trajectory. People who demonstrate consistent, reliable judgment. And regretfully, Jessica, we've determined that's no longer you. My stomach plummeted. No. This couldn't be happening. Are you firing me? The question hung in the air, tasting like bile. He didn't even flinch. Your services are no longer required. HR will handle the exit procedures. Security will escort you out. Just like that. 7 years of loyalty, dedication, success, erased in a 5-minute, jargon-filled monologue. No real reason given. No chance to defend myself. Just, gone. As the security guard, looking profoundly uncomfortable, walked me back to my desk to collect my pathetic box of personal items, the humiliation burned. Colleagues stared, whispering, avoiding my eyes. I saw Davies watching from his office window, a cool, detached expression on his face. It wasn't triumph, not exactly. It was indifference. Like I was just a piece of furniture being removed. Have you ever been kicked when you're already giving your all? Felt like you were punched in the gut while reaching for the stars. That was me. Holding that stupid cardboard box, walking out of the building I helped build, the life I knew shattered around me, all because of him. He thought he'd gotten rid of me. Just another disposable cog in his corporate machine. He had no idea what he'd just unleashed. Being fired isn't just about losing a paycheck, is it? It's a body blow. It rocks your confidence, makes you question everything. And when it's unjust, when it comes out of nowhere after years of pouring your heart and soul into a place, it feels like a betrayal that cuts right down to the bone. Those first few weeks were dark. Really dark. I felt like I was wading through cement. The shock wore off, replaced by this gut-wrenching mix of anger, confusion, and paralyzing self-doubt. Maybe Davies was right. Was I losing my edge? Did I screw up somehow and not realize it? His vague accusations festered, designed perfectly to make me question my own competence. If you've ever been gaslit, made to doubt your own reality, you know that insidious poison. Then reality hit hard. Rent doesn't care about your bruised ego. Neither do student loans or grocery bills. I polished my resume, started hitting the job boards. And hit a wall. A big, fat, invisible wall. My field, tech marketing, it's smaller than you think. Word gets around. And the story Davies spun. Apparently, it wasn't just poor judgment. The narrative became difficult, not a team player, couldn't handle pressure. Subtle character assassination, perfectly executed. Every interview felt like an interrogation about why I really left Innovate. Potential employers were hesitant, their smiles tight, their promises to be in touch feeling hollow. Rejection emails piled up, each one another tiny stab. It felt like Davies hadn't just fired me, he'd blacklisted me. He sat comfortably in my old potential role, because guess who ended up leading a watered-down version of my overly ambitious campaign, probably enjoying the fruits of my labor, while I was struggling to keep the lights on. I saw an article online profiling him as a visionary leader at Innovate. It made me physically sick. The arrogance. The injustice. He was thriving, basking in stolen glory, while I was checking grocery prices and canceling my Netflix subscription. I had to take any job I could get. Forget corporate strategy. I ended up working part-time at a local bookstore, shelving books and dealing with entitled customers complaining about the price of paperbacks. Humiliating. You bet. Especially when someone I knew from my old life walked in, saw me behind the counter, and gave me that pitying, oh, dear, look. Then there was the freelance writing gig, churning out soulless marketing copy for pennies, feeling my creativity wither under fluorescent lights in my cramped, depressing apartment. My savings dwindled alarmingly fast. The eviction notice wasn't a surprise, but seeing it taped to my door still felt like a physical blow. Rock bottom. This was it. Eating ramen, dodging calls from creditors, my confidence shot, my professional reputation in tatters, and about to be homeless. All because Harrison Davies felt threatened by me. It was bleak. I remember sitting on the floor of my mostly empty apartment, surrounded by packing boxes I couldn't afford to move, just feeling numb. Defeated. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was finished. But then, something happened. It wasn't a lightning bolt, no sudden epiphany. It was slower. A simmering rage finally reaching boiling point. It was catching sight of that stupid visionary leader article again and thinking, visionary. He stole my vision. It was remembering the excitement around my original project, the potential it had before Davies neutered it. It was realizing that the flaws he pointed out were actually the strengths, the innovative risks, the unconventional approach. He lacked judgment, not me. And that overly ambitious campaign I designed. I started thinking about it again. Not the watered-down version Innovate launched, but my version. The one focused on authentic engagement, community building, using tech for genuine connection, not just data harvesting. Davies hadn't understood it because it wasn't just about quick profits, it was about long-term value, something his short-sighted greed couldn't grasp. There was a gap in the market. A huge gap. Innovate, under Davies, was chasing the same old metrics, becoming complacent, predictable. But the market was shifting. Customers craved authenticity. My strategy was actually ahead of its time. An idea sparked. Tiny at first. What if I could do it? Not for Innovate. Not for some other corporate drone. But for myself. What if I took the core concepts of my rejected project, refined them, adapted them? What if I started my own consulting firm, built on the principles Davies dismissed? It sounded insane. Me. Bankrupt, blacklisted me. Starting a business. With what money? What resources? But the spark wouldn't die. It felt right. Terrifying, but right. It felt like taking back control. It felt like proving everyone, wrong. I had my brain. I had my ideas. I had the burning injustice fueling me. I found an old laptop, scraped together enough cash for a cheap website domain. I called my new venture Phoenix Strategies. Corny. Maybe. But it felt apartment rising from the ashes. Working out of that tiny, depressing apartment, fueled by sheer nerve and convenience store coffee, Phoenix Strategies took its first shaky breath. I didn't know if it would work. I had nothing left to lose. But for the first time since Davies uttered those fateful words, I felt a flicker. Not just of hope, but of defiance. He thought he ended my career. He had no idea he just ignited it. Starting Phoenix Strategies from my dusty floor wasn't glamorous. Forget venture capital, my seed funding was the cash deposit I desperately hoped to get back from my landlord. My office was the corner of my living room. My marketing budget was zero. It was pure hustle. Calling old contacts, the few who'd still speak to me, leveraging my actual skills, not the fabricated incompetence Davies peddled, and offering innovative marketing solutions focused on authenticity, the very thing Innovate was abandoning. The first few months were brutal. Countless pitches, endless networking, often feeling like an imposter, ramen still a dietary staple. But slowly, painstakingly, things started to click. A small nonprofit took a chance on me. I poured everything into their campaign, delivering results far beyond their expectations. Word started to spread. Another client signed on. Then another. My approach, the one Davies called overly ambitious, resonated. Companies were tired of the old playbook, they wanted genuine connection with their customers. Phoenix started to gain traction, developing a reputation for creative, effective strategies with integrity. Imagine that. While Phoenix grew, organically and ethically, I kept an eye on Innovate Solutions. Rumors trickled through the industry grapevine. Things weren't rosy over there. Davies, without fresh ideas, because he couldn't steal mine anymore, I guess, was running the company on fumes and cost-cutting. Key clients were getting restless. Talented employees, frustrated by his autocratic style and lack of vision, were leaving. The visionary leader was looking increasingly average. It wasn't exactly schadenfreude I felt, okay, maybe a little, but more a grim validation. He'd thrown away gold and settled for brass. Phoenix thrived. We moved out of my apartment and into a small, shared office space, then a bigger one. I hired my first employee, then more, talented people excited by our mission. We landed bigger clients, won awards, ironically, sometimes competing against Innovate, and winning. Within 5 years, Phoenix Strategies wasn't just surviving, it was a major player, nipping at the heels of the established firms, including my old stomping ground. I wasn't just back, I was exceeding anything I'd achieved at Innovate. And Innovate Solutions. It was struggling. Badly. Davies's lack of innovation and focus on short-term gains had caught up. They were losing market share, bleeding cash. Then the news broke, Innovate Solutions was in serious financial trouble, exploring options, potentially looking for a buyer. My heart did a weird little flip. A crazy idea, audacious and terrifying, sparked in my mind. Buy it? Buy the company that fired me? Take the CEO seat from the man who kicked me out? The poetic justice was almost too delicious. Could I even do it? Phoenix was successful, but buying Innovate was another league. I spoke to my advisors, my investors. Yes, Phoenix had attracted serious investment by now. They crunched the numbers. It was ambitious, borderline insane, but possible. Innovate had underlying value, brand recognition, infrastructure, hidden beneath Davies's mismanagement. Acquiring it, merging its resources with Phoenix's innovative spirit, it could be transformative. And damn, it would be satisfying. We made the offer. Quietly, strategically, through an intermediary investment group to avoid tipping our hand too early. The negotiations were tense. Innovate's board, desperate, finally accepted. The day the deal closed, my lawyers finalized everything. The next morning, I walked back through the glass doors of Innovate Solutions. Not with a cardboard box, but as the primary shareholder and incoming CEO. The internal announcement stunned the remaining staff. Whispers turned into shocked silence as I walked onto the main floor. And then I saw him. Harrison Davies. Standing by his, formerly my potential, office, looking bewildered, then pale, as the news filtered through. Our eyes met across the floor. That same dismissive arrogance I remembered was gone, replaced by utter disbelief and dawning horror. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. I walked calmly over to him. Mr. Davies, I said, my voice evened, professional, but holding all the weight of the past 5 years. There have been changes. As the new CEO of this company, my first act is to address certain leadership inefficiencies. His face crumpled. He knew exactly what was coming. Your services, I continued, using his own damn words against him, are no longer required. HR will handle the exit procedures. I paused, letting it sink in. Security will escort you out. Watching him being walked out, clutching a hastily packed box, past the stunned faces of the employees, it wasn't just revenge. It was restoration. It was justice. It was the phoenix fully risen. Later that day, I sat down in the CEO chair. His chair. My chair. It felt right. I looked out at the city skyline, the same view he'd probably stared at indifferently while shattering my world. They thought firing me was the end of my story. They couldn't have been more wrong. Sometimes, getting fired isn't an ending. It's a goddamn launch pad. And trust me, the view from the top is spectacular.